Before we start off, I just want to thank our group here in Ottawa. We've had a long 5 days. They've been here since Monday morning, Pro Scouts management. We came back late last night. We're here very early this morning. I beat everyone to the rink this morning, though. I was here before 7. And just want to thank them all for their help. A lot of times it's me up front, but there's a lot of people in the background that do a lot of work, so I want to make sure that they're thanked for all their efforts. Questions?
Just can you start with Patrick Brown and then?
Yeah. For us, our goal today was to add some depth down the middle, a depth forward, someone who could play, whether it's a penalty killing role, a character role, and that's what we did with Patrick. He's a very good face-off man. I think he's at 56.5 for career. He's someone that, from all of our background checks on him, someone that we know will fit in will fit in our dressing room well. He's a high character individual. He's really good on the PK, as I said. He's a good shot blocker. He's got some playoff experience a few years ago with Vegas, and before that, he's played 22 games in the playoffs. So our goal, obviously, is we'd like to play meaningful games and get there. And I think having his experience will only help us.
Is it nice to be a buyer?
Yeah, it's great to be a buyer. It was great to be a buyer at the draft this year, and it was great to be a buyer in the last week or so.
And just you had some unrestricted free agency you didn't move on from. Do you feel like you've got some good chemistry here, and you don't want to take away from that either?
The room's as good as it's been since I've been here, and DJ can speak more about that than I can. But the way Austin Watson's played of late, he's been a big factor in us winning games. I've said that wouldn't move Travis Hamonic or Nick Holden. They came here, they got families. I think it's the right thing to do. Cam Talbot has played some really good hockey. We don't get on this run if Cam Talbot is not that good in December. And of late, he's won most of his starts. So for us, and we're not going to trade Derek Brassard. He just played his 1,000th game. We're going to honor him tomorrow. So for us, there was no really intentions of, even for a little while, we've had no real intentions of moving any of those guys, unless there was an offer that we couldn't refuse, and that wasn't the case.
Pierre, at what point, was it one of the Detroit games, or what point did you really say, I'm going to flip to be a buyer?
I know this might be a bit weird. Boston game. We lost. I said, if we can play with this team on a back-to-back and show that kind of effort, and usually I'm always mad after every loss, I said, we could be buyers here. Not that we expected how we played against Detroit. Brady put the team on his back again and just said, no, sir, you're not going to win in our building. And, that's the exciting part of this young group. Who can't wait to see Brady Tkachuk play in a playoff series? It's going to be something special. But I can tell you, we lost in Boston, and I just said, it's easy on a back-to-back, the best team in the league, their first team to 100 points, and I don't know, last time the team got to 100 points, and how we played in that game told me a lot about our team.
Did you think at all about maybe getting some more goaltending help in addition to Talbot, and maybe putting Matt Sogard back in the AHL? Did that cross your mind at all?
Nope. On February 2nd, last thing I wrote in my book, NHL ready. Didn't need to say any more. I was very confident that he could do the job here. No, but with him having a guy like Cam Talbot with him, if Cam Talbot is not here, then you got to think about the tandem, how they're going to operate. I asked Cam the other day, do you mind telling the whole group before we left if you would, announce that Mads was the NHL Rookie of the Month? And the way Cam does it, he's a great goalie, but he's even a better person. So I figured the synergy there. It's unfortunate that Anton's out for the year, but no, comfortable enough in the way he's played, comfortable enough. Now it'll be interesting to see how, he's won every starter, just lost one in overtime, I believe. It'll be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But, at some point in time, you can develop, but put him in situations here. And we're trying to put him in situations to succeed, but at times as goaltending, you put them in a situation where you're going to see how they're going to respond. So, not really. No. To answer your question, no.
You picked up Jacob Chychrun. Obviously, he's got term left on his deal. As you try to start to project out to your roster next season and beyond, is Jacob Chychrun on the left side for you, along with Sanderson and Shabbat? Is that the left side for you?
I leave those decisions up to DJ. Jacob has played on the right side. I know Jake Sanderson's played on the right side. The coaches tell me that I think Shabby, they think he can play on the right side, so I'm not too really worried. Wherever they play, I feel very comfortable that it'll be where last night was about putting Jacob in a position to have some success. We put him with a veteran who talks a lot, Nick, and just to say, off the face off, this is what we do. They do things differently in Arizona in their own end coverage that we do. So moving forward, I'll leave those decisions up to DJ. To us, it was just adding someone who can play top 4 minutes, and we know he can definitely do that. And to play as well as he did, flying red eye, barely sleeping on the flight is what he told us. 2 naps, and he played like he was such in control. Moved the puck, head up. He fanned a bit on a shot, but the one time he had the chance at the top, but I think that was a bit of timing. You haven't played in 3 weeks. As much as you can practice or do whatever, your timing's going to be off when you haven't played for 3 weeks. But I was told our pro scouts after, I was fist pumping him, saying, we grade our guys, and I said whoever gave him that specific number is what he is, and that's above what we think. So we're really happy with this acquisition.
And where do you see, now that you've added Jacob Chychrun, where do you see Eric Brandstrom's future on this team?
Well, I think we saw last year that Eric Brandstrom became an NHL defenseman, regular basis, and this year he's finding his niche. You got to have a lot of respect that, Jack used him a lot on the PK. And the one thing Eric does well is he skates. He can move the puck with his passing ability, but he can also transition it with his skating ability. So I think Eric's just got to get more confidence in those aspects of the game, but the defensive part has become really good. So I think Eric can become a complete defenseman. Wherever he fits on the team, I think the fact is a healthy competition on the back end now that's what good teams have. I'm not saying we're a good team yet, but we're trending in that direction, and that's what we want. Fight for your minutes, play well, and then you'll be rewarded. So we like Eric Brandstrom, and it's him to fight for his ice time.
Greg you said at the start of the year you wanted to be in it at the trade deadline, and you are. Do you allow yourself to get greedy now and think playoffs are a possibility this season, just the way things have come together the last 3 weeks?
I think most important thing this year for us was to play meaningful games around the trade deadline. And our young core is growing so much through that. Those 2 games against Detroit. I talked about the Boston game. Talk about the game last night, coming back, winning that game. We got to be honest. The Rangers were on a back-to-back. They were shorthanded, but we found a way. We found a way to do it. And I think that's as good of a growth that this young core can have. Our number 1 center is 20 years old. Whatever, 20, no, what is he, 21? Sorry. Brady's they're still young players. They're just, in their second contracts. So to me, the best growth this team could have for future success is play meaningful games this year. We'll see. You know what? The players are having fun right now. You can tell. This group never had this kind of buzz before the Detroit game. So let's let them have fun. Let's let them grow. Let's just see what happens. You never know. Teams that we're chasing could get hit with 3 or 4 major injuries, and it gives us a better chance. But right now, let's just take it game by game. We've got a big game tomorrow night against Columbus. We were in a position where Columbus was, where you come into a building people don't expect, and you play loose and you play the right way, you play hard, and you beat teams. We did that for a few years. So we can't take anything for granted. can't take your past success over the last little while and take it for granted. But am I ever impressed with how this team has played? It's a pleasure to come to the rink to watch us play. I would pay just to watch Timmy Stützle play every night. He's a dynamic. He's going to be a superstar in this league. But to watch this whole team play is something really special.
Granted, you filled a lot of your needs. You've traded a lot of your 2023 draft picks. Is there concern with not having many picks left for the draft? We've
had a lot of years with a lot of picks. So, you know what? If we go one draft, Nashville, by coincidence, and we don't have as many picks, it's okay. You know what? We've had a lot of years with multiple first-rounders, multiple second-rounders. We've done well with some of them. Some have turned out to be really good players. Some will be good players. But overall, it's all right. You know what? It's not the end of the world. Teams have done this in the past, and their franchises have had success. We've got most of our picks moving after this year. We have most of our picks, so I'm not too worried about that. I don't think our scouting staff, if you ask them, if you have a chance, to make a playoff push here or have picks, I know what they would tell you.
You've made a lot of trades throughout your career, but what's that feeling like when maybe you make the Chychrun deal, or even today on trade deadline, and it just comes together?
Well, I can tell you the Chychrun run, I can't say anything because then I get made fun of, so I'm not going to say anything. But we were pretty happy. We were in my room in New York, and when everything came together, it was a lot of, just handshaking that we did something good for the organization, and you're getting a player here that's going to help you win moving forward, and it's just not a rental. So that you're excited about. I always say this is the funnest day of the year. This past week is the funnest day for GMs because we're mostly doing hockey. A lot of other times, people don't realize that we're not doing hockey. We're doing so many more stuff that's administrative, budgets, planning, meetings with whomever it might be that doesn't even involve hockey. So as a general manager, I think if you pull the 32 of us, this is probably one of the most fun days of the year, especially when you're a buyer.
On that same note, we saw probably this year more trades happen, like starting almost 3 weeks ago than past years. Is there a reason maybe that people are starting to be active earlier than waiting till trade deadline?
No. You know what? For us, we did a few deals before. We did Nikita Zaitsev, and we thanked him. He was great. He was a pro. It was one of the best calls I've ever had after, you trade someone. He just tried my best. I wanted to help this team win, and he was so humble and thankful for the opportunity to come to Ottawa. And that one was more about if anything else was going to come. And I've said it publicly, the Chychrun trade was done within 24 hours. From the time our first offer was made to when the deal was completed was a 24-hour span. Internally, we talked about it a bit before, but it just, that kind of like fell into piece. So I think a lot of the mindset is if you can get the player right now, go ahead and do it. Rosters don't expand until today to above 23. So sometimes you got to play around with with certain situations. But overall, I think teams are just saying, if you can get the guy now, let's not wait. And a lot of teams, what they do is they ask a lot up front. I think in the past, your demands have gone up. Maybe now the demands go down a bit. It's like a whole University of Ottawa teacher would be mad. Microeconomy, offer and demand, same principle.
So the promise you made to Giroux then about landing a defenseman, was that made during the initial pitch to get him to sign in Ottawa? Did that come later in the season?
It was in the initial pitch. The initial pitch didn't take too long. Do you want to come to Ottawa? Yes. It was fairly easy to do. It was that day. When we were coming up, he said, this team could be pretty good if we had a defenseman. That was in July. And I said, we know. We know, and I think he was pretty happy. He was the only guy that joked with me. He turned around and said, "You paid too much, Pierre." Everyone else was pretty happy, but I know he was being kidding, but he was very happy about that acquisition.
How much credit does DJ Smith deserve for getting your team to this point? Because as you know, back in November, there was lots of conversation kind of around your head coach. How much of a role impact has he had in getting your team to this point?
Well, I'd rather let the players speak about it because I've always backed DJ Smith. I've backed DJ Smith publicly, privately. I think he's a very good coach. He makes the players accountable. He makes them play hard. He communicates. He's always full of energy. He knows his systems. He knows when there's times to make adjustments. He's a good bench coach. Yesterday, even though everyone wanted Brass to get his third goal in the game, it was still, they could have still scored. New York Rangers without firepower could have still scored 3 goals or 2 goals very quickly, and he waited to the last minute. That, to me, is great bench management. And he knows how to use matchups, but a lot of credit goes to him. Like, a lot of credit goes to him. And he's a good human being. If people knew, I wish I could tell you some of the stuff that DJ Smith does that no one would ever know. And I wish I could tell you some of the stuff. He has a bigger heart than you could ever imagine. He's just a good guy. I can't say it any other way. And he's become a friend. I will admit it. Maybe sometimes you have to make decisions and fire friends and do this, but he's become a friend because I have so much respect for the individual.
En français, qu'est-ce qui vous a poussé à faire l'acquisition d'un joueur comme Patrick Brown aujourd'hui?
L'acquisition de Patrick Brown, c'est un bon joueur de support. C'est quelqu'un qui va être capable de jouer un rôle pour nous. C'est quelqu'un qui est bon dans le désavantage numérique, quelqu'un qui est bon sur les mises en jeu, quelqu'un qui va pouvoir jouer un bon rôle de soutien pour nous.
Mardi soir, on a parlé avec Brady Tkachuk après le match, puis il disait « Pour la première fois de ma carrière, c'est le fun parce que les sénateurs sont acheteurs. » Je pense que depuis votre nomination comme directeur général, c'est peut-être la 2e fois avec 2017 que vous êtes acheteur. À quel point c'est merveilleux, justement, comme directeur général, d'être acheteur plutôt que vendeur.
Non, c'est énormément content. Juste comme organisation, oubliez le directeur général. Juste comme organisation, de pouvoir être acheteur à la place de vendeur, ça veut dire que l'équipe s'en va dans la bonne direction.
Est-ce qu'il y a un certain danger à venir justement briser la chimie de l'équipe en échangeant justement un gars comme Cam Talbot ou un gars comme Austin Watson?
Oui, on ne voulait pas changer la chimie d'équipe. C'est une équipe qui a grandi ensemble, qui a passé à travers beaucoup cette année. Donc, pour nous, c'était important de tout garder ces joueurs-là ensemble.
Vous avez mentionné que Saugaard est prêt à jouer dans la Ligue nationale. Est-ce que ça veut dire que vous n'êtes pas intéressé à parler de contrat avec Talbot?
Non. Tu sais, il n'y a rien de mal qu'un gardien reste dans la Ligue américaine. On va voir je pense les 21 prochains matchs vont nous dire beaucoup de la direction qu'on va aller. Puis hier, Cam a joué un gros match pour nous à New York. On a joué toute une période en désavantage numérique, presque. Puis il était superbe. Donc, ce côté-là, on va juste voir qu'est-ce qui arrive lors des prochains 21 matchs.
Est-ce que tu regardes la contribution de Derek Brassard des dernières semaines, puis tu te dis qu'il pourrait jouer une saison, peut-être?
Derek, il joue du gros hockey en ce moment. Il joue du gros hockey. On ne gagne pas sans lui hier.
Est-ce que c'est possible juste de redire en français votre bilan des 2 dernières semaines des transactions que vous avez faites, notamment les transactions? Est-ce que vous sentez que votre équipe est améliorée par rapport à...
Oui. Notre équipe est définitivement améliorée à cause des transactions qu'on a faites au long des 2 dernières semaines. Premièrement, l'acquisition de Chychrun, quelqu'un qu'on voit comme un pilier à notre défense, quelqu'un qui peut jouer un gros rôle. Bouge bien la rondelle, défend bien, une bonne longueur, bon bâton. Hier, on l'a vu qu'il a cassé beaucoup de jeux, bon lancer. C'est quelqu'un qu'on va avoir pour cette année et les 2 prochaines autres années. Par la suite, on a changé pour Patrick Brown, qui est un bon, comme j'ai dit, juste avant ici, c'est un bon joueur rôle de soutien, quelqu'un qui est bon de mise en jeu, de désavantages numériques, quelqu'un qui a beaucoup de caractère. Donc, on est bien content avec ces 2 ajouts.
Je veux dire qu'en tant que directeur général, on ne peut pas trop se soucier de ce que les gens disent sur les médias sociaux, mais quand même, sur la dernière année, les mouvements qui ont été faits sur l'été dernier, puis à la date des transactions-là, les partisans semblent apprécier votre travail. Est-ce que ça, c'est quand même quelque chose que vous regardez un peu, que les partisans semblent contents du travail que vous faites sur la dernière année?
Je ne sais pas ce que les gens disent de moi sur les médias sociaux, donc je ne peux pas t'en parler. Je ne suis pas beaucoup dessus les médias sociaux. La seule affaire que j'ai toujours appris, c'est que j'essaie de rester niveau pas trop haut, pas trop bas. On continue à faire le travail. Yeah.
Last couple of years, you've been able to sign some of your college players, give them a couple of games, the Pintos and the JVDs. Tyler Clevin, would your plan be to sign him and give him some games, or the fact that you might be in a playoff race, does that change your thinking, maybe in giving a kid a game or two in the NHL?
We'll see. We've talked with the family's advisors. They were there when I was there. Ed was there, and I talked to Craig, who's probably going to do the contract, we believe, and we just leave it up to the player. He's been unbelievable this year. Like he's been. I left the game and I said, "Wow." I said, "This guy's very close to the NHL." So whatever route they want to take, we'll take in consideration. Do what's best for the organization. Do what's best for Tyler. Make sure he's happy. And there's two chains of thought here. He can go to the American League, get some bit of experience, play some pro hockey. But if we're playing meaningful games and be part of that pressure, see what it's like, it's good experience for him too. So there's two ways to go about it, and we'll respect whatever decision he wants to make if he wants to come out at the end of the year.
From what you saw from him, how would you compare him to Jake Sanderson when you saw him?
They're totally different. How could I say it? More physical. No one really skates as well as Jake Sanderson, but the edges on Jake are elite, if I can say that. But powerful skater, big shot, moves it, manages the game well like Jake. Different type of management. Jake will rely a bit more on his feet. Tyler will rely a bit more on his range. Jake's details are a bit better when he left compared to where Tyler is, but I think within a month with us, I think he'll have down a pat. But they're different in how they play the game, but you need both to win, and that's what's important. They're both different. If you're going to play against a heavier team, Tyler might be a bit more useful as a matchup guy, and those important minutes that you need. So they all know two players are alike, but they both bring really good qualities to the table to help us win. That's what matters the most.
Tkachuk, Sanderson, Chychrun, Branch, whose father played high-level hockey, Norris, Batherson. I think you have 9 guys in the organization now with the addition of Brown who have either played in the NHL or played a very high-level hockey. Is that just coincidence, or is that?
I guess it is. You know what? Sometimes being around an NHL dressing room when you're maybe a younger kid, you pick up stuff, you learn, you see how it's done, you see the time they put in. So I think a lot of the players you're naming here are all character players as far as work ethic and how they approach the game. So maybe it's that, all these players, I think their dads had fairly good successful careers and they maximized what they could get out of their careers. So that probably tells you a sign that maybe their sons watched the sacrifices that their fathers made. It always makes for a pretty eventful father's trip. That's for sure. But, yes, there probably is some kind of correlation, Bruce, but I can't give you the scientific data on that. Why it does work, why with some players' dad it works and other players' sons it doesn't work.